Welcome back to another episode of Hey, Have You Seen That Film? I am your host, Dylan Lloyd, and I'm excited to talk about today's film called A Sunday in New York, starring Jane Fonda and Rod Taylor. I happened to stumble across this movie. I was scrolling through my buddy's HBO Max. Thank you, shout out to him. And I was scrolling through it, just kind of looking for something to watch, and I was on their TCM section, their Turner Classic Movies. And I saw this, and I watched the trailer for it because I'd never heard of it, never seen it, nothing. And the concept of the movie, the trailer at least, piqued my interest. So then I decided to watch the movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The plot to A Sunday in New York is a young woman who's just broken up with her boyfriend, her longtime boyfriend. Goes to her brother's in New York. So Jane Fonda, her character's name is Eileen, goes to her brother who is a pilot, and he's off for Sunday. And so he's made plans with his girl, but then his sister comes along and kind of gets in the way. And she asks her brother, hey, does a woman have to sleep with a man? Does it need to be done? That's kind of the concept of the movie. Should she go to bed with a man if asked and before marriage and all that? And her brother plays this, I'm a very noble gentleman kind of character to his sister's face, but in reality he's got a girl coming over that he's wanting to enjoy the afternoon with on some one-on-one time. And so he tells his sister no, and anyways, he gives his sister the apartment, and he goes off and he and his lady try and find a place where they can have some quality time. She decides to just go sightseeing in New York. Actually, she goes because her brother gets a call from the airline saying, because he's on call, saying he needs to come take a flight. And so she goes off and she's trying to track them down. She's on a bus and she gets her jacket stuck to a man's coat pocket, that man being Rod Taylor. And from there, they start to spend their Sunday in New York together. They go rowing after they search for her brother, and after they ditch each other for a moment, they get back together and they start just enjoying their Sunday afternoon together. Pretty soon it rains, and so she takes him back to her brother's apartment, and she discovers that her brother's a phony, that he has been sleeping around with people, and so she decides, well, if he can do it, then I don't have to be this sweet, innocent woman. And so she tries to make a move on Rod Taylor's character, which he actually ends up stopping, because he finds out that she's a virgin, and he does not want to be the one to take that from her. He tells her it should be with somebody she loves. So while they're there in their bathrobes, her boyfriend comes in, proposes to her, and thinks that Rod Taylor is her brother. And so now he's got to pretend that he's the brother, when in reality he's not. He's the guy that almost slept with the girlfriend. And in the meantime, her brother comes home to find this all going on, and then is now roped into the fiasco of everything that's happening. This movie was released, I believe it was released in the 60s. I want to say 1963. I'll double check my facts here. And so, given the plot I just gave you, it is definitely, you could say, more risque for its time. The 60s, there was a lot of... The 60s had, sex comedies and battle of the sexes. But this is definitely a little bit more on the risque side of those films at the time, yet it's still a perfectly clean film. It's compared to a lot of what comes out of Hollywood today. This movie really isn't that inappropriate. It's something that really is, I think, a lot of adults go through. The should I sleep with them kind of aspect, the brother pretending, that's a whole other fiasco. I'm not saying everyone goes through that, but So that's it was interesting to see kind of a film of this topic released at that time delve pretty deeply as they went in the 60s or into a topic like that. But I really enjoyed how they explored it and how they presented it. The topic of sex and sleeping with someone before marriage and things like that. I thought it was done in a great way, in a way that I don't know. I thought it was done well. It wasn't. They didn't have to be over the top, crude or crass. There wasn't any inappropriate language, and yet, it was still a movie about sex where I wasn't uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable, but it was just like, it's just not funny. It's just too gross, too crass. It's not, I don't know. And so I appreciated that about the film. I thought I really enjoyed the chemistry a lot between Rod Taylor and Jane Fonda. I had, besides 9 to 5, I haven't seen Jane Fonda in anything. And so it was a treat to see something that wasn't even one of her, you could say, huge hits. At least, not one of her popular ones, because no one's ever talked to me about this movie. I've seen Rod Taylor in a few other things, Glass Bottom Boat, The Train Robbers, and he's the voice of Pongo in 101 Dalmatians. He's also in The Bird. So I've seen a few more things with Rod Taylor, but it was really cool to see Jane Fonda in something different, and not, as I said, something that is one of her well-known projects, though I love 9 to 5. But the chemistry between the two, I really enjoyed it. I thought that they really meshed together, and honestly, I would have enjoyed seeing more of them, even if, and not to say just in this movie, but in subsequency, in other films together. Kind of maybe like a Doris Day Rock Hudson kind of thing, where they just did a few films together and everyone enjoyed them type thing. Because I really did enjoy it, and I thought everyone else in it was well casted. I thought it was a charming story. As I said, it was just, it really handled that topic in a way that I enjoyed it. I wasn't, you know what I mean? How there's just some, we're not going to rehash that. I also think that the movie, it flows so well that it didn't feel like it didn't drag in any areas. I didn't feel like I was, and I wasn't checking my watch. I really just sat and I enjoyed the movie from start to finish, which was great, being as I had never seen it before and I was watching it at home. It was nice just to sit and actually be engaged in the film and not be distracted. And that was one thing that was great about it. And it wasn't like, this isn't like an action movie, so there's nothing keeping you engaged there, but just all the storylines that are happening in the movie keep you engaged and you're interested in what's all going on. At least I was. So, this really, I really don't have anything negative to say about the movie. I really don't. I think it was a well-made production and very entertaining. So if you're looking for something new, something that you might have missed from 60 years ago, check out A Sunday in New York. And I'm going to add this too. I think in New York is often the setting of films, and it's the place that's always getting destroyed, but I think it worked well with this setting. It's the whole, there's a lot that can happen in New York kind of thing. So anyways, A Sunday in New York, starring Jane Fonda and Rod Taylor. A great movie, one that I thoroughly enjoyed and one that I hope you will too. If you've seen this movie, comment down below. If you haven't, check it out. It's on HBO Max. And then comment down below. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your critiques, something that you may not have liked about it. Comment. As well, I hope that you subscribe so you can continue to see so much more of what I'm creating here. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great time, day, whatever you're doing. Adios. That's a wrap.